Alright, you lot, we're diving headfirst into a question so fiery it makes hot sauce look like ketchup. Picture this. You've just forked out 70 quid for the latest blockbuster game, only to find you don't really own it. Furious Kai on YouTube asks, if buying and owning, then how is piracy stealing? Now that's a gamer mic drop right there. But don't worry, I'm here to break it down like your mate explaining patch notes after 3 pints. Complicated, messy, but worth sticking around for. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe and all that bollocks, it helps the channel grow. Plus, if you've got questions or spicy texts, sling them in comments. Might just make it in a future video. Now let's get into nitty gritty of piracy, ownership, and why gamers are caught between a rock and a corporate loot box. Alright, let's tackle Furious Kai's banger of question. If buying and owning, then how is piracy stealing? Now as gamers, we've all been there, sitting in front of a screen questioning whether we actually own what we paid for. Spoiler alert, legally most of the time you don't. You're renting it. Fancy indefinite rental wrapped up in T's and C's agreement none of us read. Think about it. When you buy a physical game, it feels like you own something real, doesn't it? A disc, a cartridge. It's there in your hands, proudly displayed on your shelf like a badge of honour. But even then, your ownership is just glorified access pass. You don't own game, you own right to use it under publisher's terms. Yep, even that shiny disc is just a key to unlock the copyrighted content. Enter digital media. It's convenient, sure. No faffing about with scratched discs or pre-order queues. But buying a game digitally is like putting all your faith in cloud. Literally. One terms of service update or publisher pulling a we're shutting down servers move and poof, your beloved game library could vanish faster than your will to play after a 14 gig day one patch. So Furious Kai has a point. If we don't truly own what we buy, then how can piracy, a blatant copy and paste job of digital files, be considered stealing? After all, it's not like someone's breaking into your house and nicking your controller, is it? Here's the thing. When gamers say it's just a copy, not theft, they're actually aligning with one of the hottest debates in copyright law. Copyright infringement is different from theft in traditional sense. When you pirate, no physical items lost. Instead, you're bypassing the system that charges for access. You're not stealing an object, you're undermining a business model. And that's where suits behind scenes start to twitch. From their perspective, piracy is like sneaking into a cinema through fire exit. You're still enjoying the show, but you didn't pay for the ticket. And every unpaid ticket, they argue, chips away at their profits. But hang on, profits? We're talking about an industry pulling in billions yearly, with some of the worst offenders pumping out half-baked games riddled with microtransactions and overpriced DLC. And yet we gamers are bad guys? But let's not throw baby out with bathwater just yet. Why? Because debate around piracy ain't as black and white as gamers versus corporations, or David versus Goliath if you prefer your metaphors medieval. Let's dig into why behind piracy. For some it's pure rebellion, a middle finger to greedy publishers who slap 100 quid price tags on deluxe editions of games that aren't even finished. For others it's about accessibility. Not everyone can afford latest titles, especially when regional pricing screws over entire continents. A game that costs 50 quid in UK might cost equivalent to 2 months' wages in another part of the world. And then there's the whole issue of availability. Try legally buying some older or region-locked games. It's like hunting unicorns, but it's catch. And it's a big one. Just cause systems flawed don't mean piracy is justified. Imagine this. You're furious at your local bakery for doubling the price of your favourite cake. Does that mean you're entitled to walk in and nick it? Well, you might complain, you might boycott them, but outright theft? That's a slippery slope. Piracy has consequences beyond just sticking it to man. Game development isn't cheap. For every AAA behemoth drowning in microtransaction cash, there are indie devs barely scraping by. Piracy cuts into their already razor-thin margins, and for some it can mean difference between making another game or shutting down entirely. Now let's not pretend corporations are saints here. Big publishers love to paint pirates as mustache-twirling villains, but reality is they've spent years breeding gamer distrust. From always online DRM to predatory monetization schemes, these companies have weaponized their business models against us. Remember that old fiasco with Diablo 3's auction house? Yeah, they practically dared people to pirate the game just to play it properly. But, and it's a big but, Two wrongs don't make a right. Piracy might feel like a Robin Hood move, but it's not fixing its system, dodging it. If out, it gives publishers more ammunition to tighten the chokehold on digital ownership. They'll point to piracy as reason for invasive DRM and subscription-based models, and we, gamers, end up paying price. Literally. So let's talk about real problem here. Trust, or complete lack of it. Here's a fun experiment. How many of you trust publishers to have your back? Anyone? No? Thought so. For years, they've been treating gamers like piggy banks that can smash open whenever shareholders feel twitchy. From pay-to-win microtransactions to games launching so broken they need bigger patch than game itself. Publishers have been digging their own grave of goodwill for decades. Take DRM for example, digital rights management, aka bane of every PC gamer's existence. It's meant to stop piracy, but all it really does is punish paying customers. You buy a game and suddenly you need an internet connection, an account and blood sample to prove you own it. Meanwhile, pirates get to play a DRM-free version on day one. Cheers for that, Ubisoft. And don't even get me started on digital storefront nonsense. You don't own your games. You own a license that can be revoked if your publisher decides to yank it. Remember when Konami pulled PT off PlayStation? If you didn't download it, tough luck, gone forever. No refunds, no compensation, just a giant middle finger from publisher. Now imagine a world where publishers actually value the customers instead of treating us like walking wallets. Crazy, right? But it's not impossible. Look at CD Projekt Red. Say what you will about Cyberpunk 2077's launch disaster, but they've always championed DRM-free games. You buy it, you own it, no strings attached. That's trust. And that's why Witcher 3 is still hailed as one of the greatest RPGs ever. So what could publishers do differently? Step 1, respect your audience. Make games that are worth price tag, ditch predatory practices, stop cutting content to sell as DLC, and for the love of all things pixelated, don't release a game until it's actually finished. Step 2, embrace fair pricing and accessibility. Offer regional pricing that don't rob half world blind. Create affordable options, like subscription services or discounted bundles for older titles. Oh, and how about keeping legacy games available instead of burying them in a vault? Gamers will be happy to pay for nostalgia if you let them. Step 3, ownership clarity. If a gamer buys a game, let them own it, digital or physical. Stop treating us like criminals for wanting what we paid for. Now, we've spent enough time roasting publishers, so let's turn the spotlight back on us, gamers. If publishers suddenly got their act together, fair pricing, proper ownership, games that actually work on launch, would piracy magically disappear? Or is there something deeper fueling it? Now let's be honest with yourself. For some gamers, piracy ain't about principle, it's about convenience. Why wait for a sale when you can just download it for free? Why bother navigating poorly designed storefronts when torrent is 2 clicks away? And hey, if you're skint, piracy becomes a very tempting solution. No one's breaking piggy bank for a game they can't afford in the first place. But it's twist. Gamers don't pirate just cause they're lazy or cheap. Often it's cause system makes it bloody difficult to be a paying customer. Want to play a classic game from 20 years ago? Good luck finding it legally. Want to test a game before committing? Demo disc died with PS2, mate. Regional restrictions? Don't even get me started. Imagine living in a country where half its games are blocked or priced out of reach. At that point, piracy don't feel like a crime, it feels like a necessity. Then there's elephant in room, revenge piracy. Oh, you locked my game behind 5 layers of DRM? Guess what, mate? I'll just pirate a version that runs smoother. You released a broken mess that crashes more than Windows 98? Not paying full price for that. Gamers pirate as a form of protest, a giant middle finger to an industry that often texts us for mugs. But, and here's where it gets tricky, what happens if publishers do start respecting gamers? Would piracy vanish? Not likely, because let's face it, humans are opportunists. If something's free and easy, people will always be tempted, even when it's wrong. It's like jaywalking. You know you shouldn't, but if there's no one around to stop you, you'll do it anyway. And this is where moral question gets muddy. Most gamers don't pirate out of malice. They do it because they feel trapped in a system that doesn't respect them. It's a flawed rebellion against a flawed industry. But here's catch. Piracy doesn't just hurt big bad corporations. It hurts small studios, indie devs, people making games out of passion rather than profit. So what's the solution? Gamers need to meet publishers halfway. To start respecting us, we need to start respecting their work. Support games you love. Buy from devs who deserve it. And don't let corporations use piracy as an excuse to screw us all over with draconian DRM. Now, it's time to dive into the legal and ethical swamp that's piracy. On paper, law is crystal clear. Piracy is illegal. It's copyright infringement, plain and simple. But reality? It's as murky as a bog full of leeches. Let's break it down. Law says when you buy a game, you're purchasing a license to use content, not content itself. That means copying, redistributing, or accessing it without paying is a violation of copyright law. Simple enough, right? Except when you realise that law treats digital goods compared to physical ones. But physical media, your disc and cartridges, you've got something called first sale doctrine. Basically, once you buy it, you can resell it, lend it, or use it as a coaster if you fancy. But with digital media, forget it. You don't get the same rights. You can't resell, you can't lend, and you sure as hell can't back it up without breaching some terms of service clause buried in fine print. This is where gamers start to question the system. If publishers are stripping away at rates we had with physical games, how's it fair to hold us to the same legal standards? It's like buying a car but being told you can only drive on certain roads. And if manufacturer decides to recall it, tough luck, it's gone. Now let's tackle ethics. Piracy is often framed as a victimless crime, especially by those who argue, I wasn't going to buy a game anyway, so no money was lost. But that logic don't hold up. Whether it's a billion-dollar publisher or an indie dev working out of their mum's basement, games take time, money, and effort to make. Pirating a game is like walking into someone's house, eating the dinner and saying, well, I wouldn't have cooked it myself, so now I'm done. That said, legal system ain't exactly on our side either. Copyright law is outdated, designed for a world where physical goods were norm. It ain't caught up with nuances of digital ownership, and gamers are left feeling like second-class citizens in a world dominated by corporate interests. Then there's enforcement question. Companies claim piracy costs them billions, but how much of that is really lost sales? Truth is, most pirates wouldn't have bought a game anyway. And let's not forget hypocrisy. Some of these companies cry foul over piracy while pulling stunts like pay-to-win mechanics and cutting content for overpriced DLC. Pot, meat, kettle. So where does that leave us? Law says piracy is stealing. Ethically, it's betrayal at creators who make games we love. But practically, it's a reaction to a system that treats gamers like cash cows. Let's put on optimist hat briefly and talk about future. How can gaming industry adapt to reduce piracy while giving gamers what they bloody well deserve? First up, make games accessible. Want to kill piracy? Start by addressing reasons people pirate in the first place. Regional pricing needs to stop being a global joke. If a game costs 50 quid in UK, it shouldn't cost 3 months' wages elsewhere. And let's talk availability. Gamers shouldn't have to pirate classic titles or region-locked content just to play games they love. Companies like GOG are already doing it right, making DRM-free games available for a fair price. Take notes, publishers. Second, real ownership. Industry needs to stop treating digital buyers like glorified renters. If I pay for a game, I want to know I still have access to it when I'm 80, reminiscing about how games used to be fun before loot boxes took over. That means ditching always online nonsense and giving players ability to back up and transfer their libraries. You know, like physical media days, but digital. Third, trust and transparency. Gamers aren't idiots. Well, most of us anyway. If publishers want us to stop pirating, they need to start playing fair. That means releasing games that work at launch, ditching predatory microtransactions, and being upfront about what we're paying for. No more selling half a game and slapping rest behind a paywall. Now let's talk about us, gamers. We've got a role to play too. Support devs who'll do it right. If a company respects your time and money, reward them by buying the games. Don't give your hard-earned cash to publishers who treat you like nuisance. Oh, and if you're one of those people who pirates indie games, have a word with yourself. These are folks making games we love, often with little to no safety net. But here's the thing, piracy will never fully disappear. It's just human nature. People will always take shortcuts if they're available. Goal isn't to eradicate piracy, to make it irrelevant. If buying the game's easier, more rewarding and just playing better than pirating it, most people will pay up. So what's takeaway? Gamers and publishers are stuck in a dysfunctional relationship, and piracy's messy fallout. Fixing it means meeting in middle. Publishers need to respect the customers, and gamers need to respect work that goes into making games. So, what do you think? Piracy necessary evil or just plain wrong? Drop your thoughts in comments. Let's keep this conversation going, because it's a debate worth having. And before you go, the usual drill. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and leave your comments and questions below. Who knows? Might even feature them in a video. I'll see you next time, you magnificent.